Show, episode 8. We got Matt Mills in the building from Los Angeles, California. He's been featured in Forbes, One Idea Away, and Timeout LA. A former Hollywood exec turned coach, frequent speaker in the Los Angeles area, trainer, certified professional running and leadership coach, a marathoner, and a former NCAA athlete, and founder of Coaching on the Run. Matt, welcome, Matt.
It's great to be here. It's quite the introduction. I didn't realize I accomplished all those things.
So. Yeah. So could you explain a little bit what Coaching on the Run is?
Yeah. So what I do is, as you mentioned, so in my work, I'm a life and leadership coach. So what I do is I help people who are struggling in some area of their life or work professionally, and really helping them to be stronger leaders for themselves, for others, and really doing that to have that healthy balance in their life. And I do that through using running as a tool to help talk about coaching, to help provide coaching. And so what Coaching on the Run is really just using running as a way to talk about how people can be better in their life through running, how they can be better leaders, how they can have more success, how they can be faster in whatever it is and get to the finish line faster, have better results. And so that's a bit about what I do and what Coaching on the Run is all about. Okay.
And how long ago did you start Coaching on the Run?
So I've been a professional coach for about 5 years. And about a year and a half ago, I was trying to find a way to get my brand out there, get my message out, and talk about what it is that I do. And I started training for a marathon. And I've been a lifelong runner. So I ran collegiately, ran in high school. I do marathons now. So it's always kind of been a part of my life. And just one day, I thought to myself, you know what? I want to explore how to use Instagram, use social media tools a little bit better to get my message out. And I thought, you know what? Let me track and document my training and talk about the things that I use with my clients and the things that I do to be better in my own life as a coach, and really talk about that through the lens of my marathon training. So from that's where Coaching on the Run was born. And so what I did was through that, as I was training for that marathon, it was the San Diego marathon that I was training for. I talked about goal setting. I talked about mindset. I talked about, balance, like things that are important that were helping me train for my marathon, but then also helped me in other parts of my life and were things that I talked with other clients. And that's how Coaching on the Run was born.
Awesome. I love that. You're an NCAA athlete. What school did you attend?
So I went to a small liberal arts school called Stonehill College. And actually it's funny. It's been in the news a little bit lately. Keith Gill, who is the GameStop Roaring Kitty.
Oh yeah.
I actually ran with him.
Oh, really?
On a cross country team. So we were a Division II squad.
Okay.
Nationally ranked. It was a really, really good program. So that's what I ran track and cross country for 4 years.
Oh, so you ran both. So cross country is in the fall, correct? And then and then tracks in the spring semester?
Yep, that's right. And in the winter. So in New England, which is where the school is, it's in Massachusetts.
Okay.
It's beautiful. So in the fall, it's great cross country weather, a lot of great parks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also did indoor track in the winter time because it's snowing and it's cold. And then in the spring, we ran outdoor track. So, which is different than in California. Where I am now, it seems like it's 72 and sunny pretty much all year round. So
that's awesome.
Not a lot of indoor track. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm out in Rochester, New York, and right now we got a huge. Did you
get hit? Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, big storm.
Wow.
All the high school and college classes are canceled today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you Division II. Where are you? Have you always been out in California, and did you go to school in New England, or what's going on?
Yeah. So I grew up in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Connecticut and was there through college. And my college was outside of Boston. So I stayed on the East Coast, and my dad grew up in San Diego. And so growing up, I would come out and I was hooked right from the start.
I bet.
I kind of, it was like, it's 70 degrees in the middle of February and I get to run in shorts and a t-shirt. So I was hooked right away. And also I think I was, baptized on the beach, as you would say.
I bet.
So for me, I couldn't wait to come back out here and I always joke that I'm solar powered. So I just, after 22 years of the winters and also the summers get really hot too back east.
They do.
So for me, I
Humid.
always knew. Yeah, exactly. So I just always knew I wanted to be out in Southern California. And so after I graduated, it's when I moved out here.
Yeah, so it's dry heat out there, not humid, right?
It's so nice. Although our summers are getting a little more humid. But yeah, it's dry, which is it's ideal. It's good for training. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how often do you still competitively run or like run marathons?
It depends. So I've done 10. And so it's usually been about one a year. I took a break. There was a period of time where I just burned out on it because the training, it's a lot of people say, oh, I can never run a marathon. I don't believe that. And that's actually a lot of what I coach people on, because I'm a certified running coach as well. So I do coach people in marathon training and a lot of first timers. And all it really takes is just the dedication to the training. So I had a period of time where I took about a 3-year break because I burned out. And since then, which was a few years ago, I've done probably like 1 or 2 a year. Currently, I had, right before the pandemic, I had signed up for, I think, 2 to do in 2020, and they both got postponed. So right now I'm not really training for anything. The last one I did was the LA Marathon, which was the week before everything got shut down. So
at least you got that one in.
It was the last, I think, American marathon for a while. Yeah.
How many people run in the LA Marathon? Thousands?
That's a good. Oh yeah, it's like tens of thousands. I think I want to say it's usually about 25,000 every year.
And yes, so a marathon's 26.2 miles. And what time do you usually, like, your best time you finish?
My best time was at LA.
This year?
It was it was about 10 years ago, and I ran 3 hours and 14 minutes.
3 hours and 14 minutes. So what would that be divided by 20? So what were you averaging?
It's about 7 minutes and 45 seconds per mile. Wow. I think it averages out.
That's pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I'm usually around like 3 hours and 30 minutes, which is like 8-minute miles. I've had a couple. I did New York one year, and I've done Boston. And Boston was not a great time. I think I ran like 4 hours, but you have your good days and your bad days.
Yeah, actually. So I've never ran a half marathon or a marathon. That is a goal I would like to have. I have ran, and it's around I live in the Finger Lakes region in New York, Western New York. And we have a race out here called Seneca 7, and we run.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's 77 total miles around the lake, and we have 7 different people on our team, and we all have different legs. So
that's great.
Yeah, and I had 3 separate runs where, like, we pass off the whatever it's called, the little like
bracelet.
Bracelet.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I had about a 5-mile run was the first. The second one was like 4.8, so about another 5-mile run, and the last one was like 3.1, and it came to about 13 total miles, which is about a half marathon, but it was
spaced out.
Yeah, which almost I felt like might have been harder than just running a
Yeah,
straight half marathon.
it is. Yeah, those are really popular these days. Like Ragnar is a type of race you hear a lot of people do, these relay races, and I've done one myself, and it's so much fun. It's a great
Yeah,
opportunity to just to be with a bunch of your buddies and do a relay race. It's kind of, it's like a 24-hour thing that I've done. And you're right. I did that too. And one leg was I in the morning, and then another leg in the middle of the night, and then another one, in the daylight. So that's challenging because you're up for that entire time.
yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, you're right. So it's tougher than just knocking out 13 miles at one time.
Yeah, which I think I can do. And so yeah, we'd all be in like a big van, and like we'd go to the next stop and like we brought a football, we were throwing the football around waiting for people, which was cool. Some teams actually do where they bike, where they'll have one guy run and the rest of them bike, and then they like hook the guy's bike on behind the last guy and just go, which that's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yep.
Um, so what would like a pre-run meal be for a marathon for you?
Yeah, and it's funny because runners are pretty particular,
Yeah.
and at least people who have had some experience with that. And so it's definitely some trial and error. I mean, for me, a good pre-race meal is something that's going to digest pretty easily. So usually I'll have like banana, a bagel with some peanut butter. You might have a Gatorade or just some water beforehand, but I try not to have it too heavy. So I think the mistake sometimes runners make is, especially if someone's doing it for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they have either a huge meal or they don't eat anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with the marathon is, you're not going out too fast. You're going to burn that off. So you want to have something in your stomach
Yeah.
to burn off, because you're going to burn a ton of calories throughout that race. So you
Yeah.
want to have something, but nothing that's like, I wouldn't have a plate of bacon and eggs before I go off and run a marathon. Or like, I don't do coffee. I mean, I drink coffee, but not before a race because upsets my stomach. So you kind of need to try it out. And that's why during training, that's a great time to try stuff out.
Oh yeah.
So, when you're training for a marathon, usually you'll do one long run a week in preparation for the race. And that's a great time to try out. So try out some diet, some things that work for your diet. So, if you're new to it, try and see what works. Maybe it's like dry cereal for you. Maybe you do want to have some eggs if that digests easily. Maybe you can only handle a banana, whatever it is, but try it out and experiment before race day.
Yeah, I bet. So and then during the run there's usually there's like tables of water that they hand you
Yeah.
out water and stuff. And so
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not eating anything during the race at all, not like not like maybe a little energy bar or anything.
So what I do and what a lot of runners do is they have those gel packs.
Oh.
And they're I think the brand is called Goo, and they have so many different flavors now. And what it is it's basically just concentrated jelly that you have. And
Mm-hmm.
they're in these packets, and you put them and you take them with water. And that gives you the calories and the energy boost. And so I'll usually take water or Gatorade, whatever they hand out, every mile or every other mile. And then about, every 8 or 9 miles, I'll take one of those packets and take it down. And that'll give me a boost of calories. It'll give me a boost of caffeine.
Oh, so you do use
Yeah.
caffeine when you run.
When I run, yeah, the caffeine's okay. Coffee is just like, it's a hot drink before going for a run.
Yeah, yeah.
It can
I
give you
actually
some problems.
I actually like drinking coffee before I work out and run. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just caffeine.
Everyone's different,
Mm-hmm.
but there are, I've taken 5-hour energy drink before a run. So again, it's everyone's different with their body and with their nutrition. So whatever it works for you. So if you do coffee, great, do that. It's important to kind of have that routine.
Yeah, so your caffeine, does it come from those like those gel packs have the caffeine in them, and then do you take them before the race, or do you use some other caffeine before the race, or like a 5 hour energy?
Yeah, I'll take like a 5 hour energy. Just because that's like really small. That doesn't affect me, my stomach. And then yeah, the gel packs, I will usually take ones that have caffeine, to give that energy boost. Especially at the end of the race, you're gonna feel tired. And there's been sometimes in a race where it feels like I could just lay down and take a nap. So it's good to have those gel packs where I can get that boost of energy. So I'll usually take maybe about 2, at the most 3 during a marathon.
Okay, that's awesome. So a post marathon meal, how does that look? Probably
Oh,
tastes amazing.
oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. That's the incentive that I have throughout
Yeah.
the race. I usually will go crazy because leading up to the race and even training, I'm really good with diet and nutrition. And then after the race, it might
Free for
be,
all.
oh, it's like cheeseburger and fries or pizza, or there's always something that I'm like craving or dreaming about, like chicken wings. It's usually kind of some sort of junk food. Um, so that's like the best part of the race is having that reward at the end.
That's awesome. So yeah, I feel like just running for me is just it's just so mental. Like
Yeah,
sometimes some days you just don't want to do it. You don't want to do it, and those are the days of when you get home. Like those are the best feeling days where you just feel like, oh, I did it.
totally. Yeah, exactly. And I love hearing that. And that's something that I tell a lot of people, especially those days when it's hard,
Hmm.
is those days when you don't want to get out of bed. And I remember those days clearly in the cold weather.
Oh yeah.
When I was training in college, there were really no off days. And you had to get out there, and whether it was snowy or rainy, or you had to get on a treadmill. And so motivation was pretty low. But what I always tell people is the thing with motivation is it often comes after you start taking action.
Yeah.
So I always tell clients, I tell people that I work with, I'm like, find the easiest or smallest thing that you can do to get you in momentum. So I always say, like, get your shoes on. So if you don't want to go for your run, then don't think about going for your run. Think about putting on your shoes, or think about just getting out of bed. Like, that's the only thing you need to focus on. And I promise you that when you do that, then you're not gonna put your shoes on and then immediately take them off and go to bed. If you want to do that, great. That's your body telling you you probably need to sleep a little bit more. So I always say, like, start the smallest thing. And the same thing is for a run. I'm like, commit to 4 minutes. You don't have to commit to doing, an hour or 6 miles or whatever. Just say, I'm just going to go for 4 minutes. And then if after that 4 minutes, you want to turn back and go home, go for it. It's not a problem at all. So just know that you get motivated after you get into action.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like I definitely had noticed that too. Like where I'll be running and it's almost like the first half mile is the hardest, and then like,
Yeah,
do you run with headphones in, listen to
I
music?
do. I do. I have such a list of podcasts, and
So you listen to podcasts during you runs?
I listen to podcasts. I do listen to music too. I do. I try to have at least one day where I don't, because for me, my running is a great meditation for me, and it's also a great where I do a lot of my best thinking. And so music actually motivates me to do that. So yeah, I do. I have headphones in usually. I'd say like 90% of the time I'm running.
Yeah. So like when I'm running and like by that half mile, like I'm just like in my head that I love listening to podcasts and I listen to them when I'm working,
Yeah,
but when I'm running, I just listen to music and I just get in the zone and I'm
it's
just like,
awesome.
and like the
Yeah.
further I run away from home, I have no choice but to run back. So
Yeah.
that's why I do like running outside rather than on a treadmill. And
Yep.
so I'm assuming you're the same way. You'd
Oh
rather.
yeah. Well, in California, I fortunately I can run outside. not to
All year round.
not to rub it in,
No,
like,
you're
for
fine.
people back east, but yeah, I can just like go outside all day, all night, and it's pretty clear and great. I love it.
Yeah. So, what was your position as a Hollywood exec?
Yeah. So I worked in movie development. And so really what that means is I was responsible for finding material that would ultimately be turned into a TV show or a movie. So
Okay.
it was a lot of reading. I worked for a company. We did a lot of comic book movies. The guy who did the old Spider-Man movies. I worked
Like
for his company.
the
It
like
was,
the cartoon movie or movies or
no, the one with Tobey Maguire.
oh really? Those are my favorite Spider-Man movies.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I was
So
like,
I worked for the company that produced those, and so what I was doing was really just reading a lot of comic books, reading a lot of books, scripts, meeting with writers, and just trying to find ideas for movies. And it was really exciting. I really enjoyed it. I still have a passion for movies, TV, pop culture. Honestly, I could talk about that all day and all night. um, but professionally, I was excited and called to do something else, and that was coaching. And so I had experienced that while I was doing that job, and it was a tough living. It was a lot of work, a lot of hours. But what I realized was I enjoyed watching TV and movies more than I liked making them. So that's why I decided to shift into something different.
to self-improvement. So,
Yeah.
what would it be like your tips towards like someone trying to like self-improve themselves towards getting into like a marathon shape where maybe they're only running about I don't know 3 to 5 miles at a time
Yeah.
and they're only
Yeah.
running maybe twice a week and eventually they want to run a marathon.
Yep.
What would a tip be for you?
That's great. And what I would say is, so first of all, you need to know your finish line. So I take, and this is really the process that I take a lot of clients and athletes that I work with through. So if you really want to, let's say a marathon's your goal and you've never run it before. First thing is you need to know what your finish line is, whatever that looks like for you. And it's not just picking your race and saying, I want to finish the LA marathon or the Boston marathon or whatever. Like really got a clear picture of what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like, who's going to be there for you at the end of that finish line, like how great it's going to feel for you when you do that. Because what that's going to do is get you excited about putting in the work. And then from there, it's really about just having the right mindset. So buying into that vision and really saying, okay, I'm ready to do what needs to be done. And then the last step to get started is get a strategy together. It's really important. You can't just show up to the start line and just be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll see how it goes. You do need to have a bit of strategy, not just for the race, but also for training. And look, there are a lot of apps, there are a lot of plans online. Obviously, I think working with a coach is the best way to do that. So I think any way that you can have just that strategy, because what that's going to do is, first of all, you're going to see how to get to the finish line, because if you try to go it on your own and you don't put a strategy in place, then it's going to be harder to get to the end. But when you've put in the work and you've done it based upon what's worked for other people and what is some proven success, then you're more likely to get to the end. And then really the last step after that is just put in the work. And if you have a clear and compelling enough vision of what that finish line is going to look and feel like for you and what you want to accomplish, you will put in the work. But really give it your best. Start where you are. So it's okay if you're only running a couple days a week. Everyone can do it. Seriously, a lot of times people run marathons, even top guys, where they're only running 3 days a week. So you don't need to be like Rocky, going out in the middle of the woods and it's like putting up some giant logs over your head and going out for runs every single day. You can train for a marathon depending on what your schedule is. So it's possible. But those are really the main steps that I would recommend to anyone to take.
So would you actually recommend maybe running only 3 or 4 times a week in training, or like running 6 to 7 times a day or a week?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's different for everyone.
Okay.
Here's the thing. It's all about confidence. And this is really for whatever it is that you want to accomplish. If you set your goal too high, or if you try to do too much at once, you're going to get discouraged. And then that's going to set you back. You're not going to get to that finish line. But instead, what you want to do is do whatever is going to make you feel really confident and feel really good. And for some people, their body can only take, really running at their best can only be 3 or 4 days a week. Now, I would also, a lot of times those people are also doing something else. So they might be cross training. They might be getting on a bike, doing an elliptical, strength training, whatever that might be. So there's not one right way and there's not one wrong. Well, the only wrong way is not to put in any work, but the right way is some people, they need to go out and run 7 days a week, and that's what works for them. Other people, their body might need a rest, and they work best by only doing 5 days a week or 4 days a week, and then 2 days that they're doing something else like yoga or cycling or whatever that might be. So it's hard to say that there's a right way, but start where you are. And then see where you can challenge yourself just a little bit. So right now, if you're running 2 days a week, add 1 more day a week and just start there and build from that.
And what do you think the time length, about like maybe 2 months probably be a decent time? I'm just going in my head.
Yeah. No, I think if you've never run a marathon before, start as soon as you can.
Okay.
There are some people that say, it takes 6 months because first 3 months, you're basically all you're just doing is running and building up your mileage and getting used to running long distances. Then in the second 3 months, you're adding in some workouts, you're doing some speed work, adding in more strength, like you're really getting more comfortable with stretching yourself and getting stronger and faster. So 2 months is I would say the minimum is 3 months. Okay. So if you really want to run a marathon or train for a marathon, especially if you've never done one before, give yourself, I would say 3 months at the least. And if you can, 4 or 5 or maybe even 6.
Yeah, because like the Seneca 7, I'm not a huge runner. Like I don't run. I'm more of just running like twice a week. And sometimes I'll go even a month without even running at all. But I always have this like in my mind where it's just in your mind just to keep going and just keep running. Like I can, like in my head, I feel like I can maybe even go like a month without running and then just go run 13 miles, which it's not going to be easy at all. And it's going to be real sore after. But I just feel like a lot of it is in your mind.
It's all in your mind. And the funny thing is, I think, especially people who have never run a marathon before, if they're doing it on their own, and this is how I was, my first marathon was, I underestimated how much of a mental challenge it would be. Because when you get the first 13 miles, it totally feels great, feels easy. And then when they call it hitting the wall, where around mile 18, around mile 20, it's different for everybody. Man. Your body starts to be like, what are you doing? You can't be going this far. And it starts to be really, really challenging. And the thing is, your mind needs to tell you, you just got to take it step by step. And if you've never experienced that before, your body and your brain is going to be like, no, stop. You can't do this anymore. So you're 100% right. It's a lot. It's in your minds. And so that's why training is so important, and proper marathon training, because it's getting you ready mentally as well as physically.
Oh, awesome. And so is the marathon the longest run you've ever done, or what's your longest run you've done?
It is. Right now, a lot of people are getting into ultra marathons.
Yeah, the 100-mile.
Yeah, and it's funny. My podcast, I interview a lot of runners, and I almost feel like every guest that I've had recently has been an ultra marathon runner where they run the 100 miles and the 50 miles. None of that is appealing to me at all. I because 26, it's a perfect distance. I feel exhausted after running that race. I There's not a bone in my body that is eager to run more than 26.2
Yeah.
miles. So I admire everyone who does. The other reason is because to train for those races is a lot of dedication and a lot of running. So usually, just to give you an idea of people who do that, they will go for maybe like a 15-mile run on Saturday, and then they'll do a 20-mile run on Sunday. So they're running so many miles, and they're just running, and it's really slow. So it's challenging for me to, even though sometimes I have to on runs, it's challenging for me to purposely slow down. But ultramarathon runners, some of them, you're going really slow because the goal is really you just need to finish the race rather
just
than
finish
run it
the run.
fast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you might know who you probably do. David Goggins, you know who he is?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who I've heard of, or I've heard his podcast on Joe Rogan, and I followed David on Instagram, and also
Yeah.
Cameron Haynes is another one. But
Yeah.
they just, oh my goodness, they're unbelievable. He's doing this thing. He's done it a few times already. It's a 4x4 by 48, where he runs 4 miles, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48, or 4 miles for 4 miles, or 4 hours every 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. You see a lot of challenges like that people are doing these days. I think, especially when there's no races happening right now, I'm seeing a lot more of those where people are, they're saying like, oh, I'm going to run 135 miles this month. And they're kind of doing these kind of personal challenges, which is great. If it keeps you motivated, that's awesome. But I think you're going to see that become more popular. There was a really great book from about 10 or 11 years ago called Born to Run. And I think that's where people started to know about ultramarathoning. And I think that's when it started to become popular, because it talks a lot about people doing ultramarathons. But I admire anyone who wants to do it, but yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I would definitely admire anyone. I mean, I admire people who run marathons, because I still haven't ran a marathon. That is a goal I'd like to have. But
That's awesome. We'll get you out there.
yeah. So where can people find you on? Do you have Facebook, Instagram, spot like podcast? Yep. What is it?
Yeah. So on Instagram, people can find me at Coaching on the Run. That's my handle. And then coachingontherun.com. They can go there. I have, if you're just getting started, you can sign up and get what's called a Jumpstart Your Running Toolkit. And that's just a few really cool tools that will just get you started no matter where you're at in your running. So you can sign up on there. And then, my podcast is called Run to Thrive. And it's talking with people who are successful in their personal and professional life in some way. So I talk with people who are experts in their fields. They are are also, as I say, like everyday heroes. So people who use running as a way to help fuel their success. So I interview some folks, and then I also talk about how you can use running to be more successful in your work life and your personal life. So Run to Thrive, you can find it on all major podcasts outlets.
Yeah. So you said you give out tools to start yourself. What kind of tools are those?
Yeah. So it's helping to, it's a lot of what I talked about, like creating that vision, getting in the right mindset. There is a strategy. So if you are just getting started, there is a 3-week plan where it's actually, you will get a plan for you to get started with running. No matter where you're at, if you've taken a break or if you are just getting started for the first time. So, and then a lot of other cool things. I send guided runs so you can listen. I actually guide people on runs and tell you, here's what, and talk about some lessons. So there's a lot of cool things. Yeah. You'll get it through email. Yeah.
Okay. So they're kind of like recordings where they listen to you talk during the run, is what you're saying?
Yep. So, I guide them through a warm up, and then guide them through the run, and through that, talk about some visualizations, just some tips to help improve the running, some things to really think about that they can take from their run and also apply to other areas of their life. So, and then, cool down and all of that. So I will actually be literally coaching you while you're running.
That's awesome. Yeah. Cause I have the Nike. So I have the Nike running app, and like, I'll have my music playing, but like whenever, like, sometimes it'll stop and like Kevin Hart will come on and say like something like inspirational. And the first time that happened, I was like, what the heck? But it's actually real cool. I'm gonna have to take a look at yours as well.
Yeah, of course. That would be great. Yeah, Kevin Hart, that would be really funny. I don't know if I'd want him screaming into my ear, but there are some cool guided runs on the Nike app too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're a football fan at all, but you are. Well, who's your team?
Well, so for coming up, because I grew up in Connecticut, I went to school outside of Boston. I grew up as a New England Patriots fan.
Oh, okay.
I was, born and bred from the Patriots, but I was a fan like before Tom Brady was ever quarterback in the Drew Bledsoe years.
Before Brady was there. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I was a fan when they were back in the day. This might date me. They were 0-15 back in the day. And then they drafted Drew Bledsoe. But we had a lot of really good years. And now it's a little bittersweet to see Tom Brady going to the Super Bowls, but
do you want him to win?
Yeah, I have gone back and forth, but I am rooting for him.
There you go.
He's the GOAT, so I gotta root for him. I love Gronk. I was able to fortunately I met Gronk, a few years ago. He's great. So I got to root for those guys, and I'm picking Tampa Bay. I think they're a good team, but honestly, it's going to be a great game. Kansas City is no joke.
No joke. Yeah. So I'm a big Michigan fan. I was born in Detroit, and I grew up. I grew up actually in New York, but I lived out there for 3 years in Michigan, and then I moved back a couple years ago just to experience it. And so
Tom Brady's your guy.
Yeah, I like Brady. I got a Tom Brady Michigan jersey, so I definitely want him to win.
Awesome. Yeah.
And because if there's a guy who could win more Super Bowls than him, I think is the guy he's playing.
Patrick Mahomes. I agree. Yeah, it's honestly, I don't want to see history, whatever that is. So I just think what Brady has accomplished, whether you're a Patriots fan, a Tampa Bay fan, neither.
If you're a football fan,
you just now if you can't say that he's the greatest quarterback of all time, then we're not playing on equal grounds. Like, you're not paying attention to the facts. So.
Yeah, he's what? Now this is his 10th Super Bowl, and that's more than half the years he's been in the league. Unbelievable. I know. Crazy. And if he wins the 7th, it's going to be one more ring than Michael Jordan.
It's crazy. Well, at the end of the day, and I say this every year with the Super Bowl, I just want to see a good game.
Yep.
That's it.
I feel you. So we can. You got anything else you want to promote or talk about?
No, this has been a great conversation. So.
All right. Yeah. So if you have anything else coming out, we can always have you back on. I'd love to talk to you again. It was a great conversation, Matt. I appreciate you coming on. And we'll sign off here. Episode 8 in the books.